are mysteries that never sleep. Stories buried under dust, whispers, and time itself. Tonight, we're diving into 5 real cases that still haunt investigators, and anyone brave enough to look deeper. From a message written in blood to a voice captured in the static, these are the cases that remain unsolved, where truth fades and the unknown begins. It was a crisp autumn evening in 2017 when Emily Sanders, a 29-year-old woman living alone in a quiet Oregon town, finished her work for the day. She lived in a modest house at the end of a tree-lined street, where the only sounds were the occasional rustle of leaves and the distant hum of passing cars. For most people, it was peaceful, almost idyllic. But that evening, peace would turn into something far more sinister. Emily had spent the day catching up on emails and preparing dinner. As the sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with streaks of orange and purple, she made a quick call to her mother, as she did most nights. Their conversation was casual, filled with the mundane details of her day, the new coffee shop she had discovered, her plans for the weekend, and a joke about her cat knocking over a lamp. After hanging up, Emily settled in to get ready for bed. Her bedroom was calm, bathed in the soft glow of a small bedside lamp. She was about to switch off the light when she heard it, soft, almost imperceptible at first. A voice called her name. "Emily, Emily." Her heart skipped a beat. She froze. The voice was unmistakably hers, but that made no sense. She was alone. Her house was locked. No one had a key. She blinked and shook her head, telling herself it was a trick of the mind, a fleeting auditory illusion. Then it came again, clearer this time, repeating her name in the same tone, the same inflection she used when she spoke casually to friends or family. It was not a recording, not a joke. Emily recognized it as her own voice. She tried to rationalize. Perhaps she had left a phone or device playing a recording. She checked every room, turned off every device. Nothing. The house was empty. Panic set in. Emily decided to leave her bedroom and investigate the living room where the voice seemed to originate. Her footsteps were cautious, barely making a sound on the wooden floor. But when she stepped into the living room, the room was as it always had been. Neat, quiet, and utterly devoid of life. No one, no sound, nothing. Just the echo of a voice that should not have existed. The next morning, Emily was gone. Not just out for errands, but completely vanished. Her car remained in the driveway. Her personal belongings were untouched. Even her phone and wallet, usually taken with her when she left, were left on the kitchen counter. It was as if she had simply ceased to exist. The local police launched an immediate search. They scoured the house, the yard, and the surrounding area. Every door was locked from the inside. Every window was intact with no signs of tampering. Security cameras from nearby houses showed nothing unusual. There was no evidence of a break-in, no footprints outside, no vehicle leaving the area. It was as though Emily had disappeared into thin air. Neighbors were interviewed. One, a man who lived next door and often exchanged greetings with Emily, recalled a strange occurrence the night before. Around midnight, he thought he heard a faint echo of a woman's voice calling out a name. But when he strained to listen, it sounded eerily like Emily's own voice, repeated in rapid succession. He had dismissed it at first, thinking it might be the wind, until the news of her disappearance surfaced the following morning. Months passed and the investigation dragged on. Audio experts were brought in to analyze the phenomenon reported by the neighbor, but there was nothing concrete. No recordings, no anomalies in the home's devices, nothing to explain the inexplicable. Theories began to circulate. Some suggested a highly skilled intruder, someone capable of mimicking voices perfectly. Others whispered of something far more supernatural, a paranormal echo that somehow reached Emily before her disappearance. Some even speculated a psychological condition that might have caused Emily to hallucinate her own voice. But even this did not account for the lack of any trace or explanation. Despite extensive searches in the surrounding forest, rivers, abandoned buildings, and even neighboring towns, no sign of Emily was ever found. The case remained cold, a chilling reminder of how someone could vanish completely, leaving only unanswered questions. To this day, locals speak in hushed tones about Emily Sanders' house. Some claim that if you walk past it late at night, you might hear faint whispers, a voice calling a name that seems familiar but just out of reach. Others avoid it entirely, feeling the weight of the unsolved mystery pressing in. And the most haunting question of all lingers: what or who spoke the last thing Emily ever heard? Was it a warning, a trick, a threat, or something beyond human understanding? In 2021, Jacob Ellis, a 33-year-old IT technician from Denver, Colorado, vanished under circumstances that remain unexplained to this day. Jacob wasn't a thrill seeker or a conspiracy theorist. He lived alone, worked remotely, and spent most of his evenings gaming or fixing electronics. By all accounts, he was an ordinary man, until the night he received a phone call that, according to his phone records, should not have been possible. It happened on June 14th, 11:47 p.m. Jacob's phone rang from an unlisted number. The call lasted 2 minutes and 17 seconds. The next morning, his neighbor, who often saw him walking his dog, noticed something strange. The dog was wandering outside, leash still attached, but Jacob was nowhere to be found. When police entered his apartment, nothing seemed disturbed. The lights were off, TV still on pause, a bowl of popcorn on the table, half eaten. His phone was on the floor beside the couch. The last incoming call on the screen read, Jacob Ellis. At first, investigators assumed it was a prank, perhaps a spoofed number or a glitch. But when they accessed phone company records, they found something impossible. The call had indeed originated from Jacob Ellis's own number, exactly 24 hours into the future. The timestamp showed June 15th, 11:47 p.m., day that hadn't happened yet. Even stranger, the recorded call, pulled from voicemail sync data, captured only a fragment of audio. It was muffled, distorted by static, but investigators could make out Jacob's own voice. He was whispering, "Don't open the door," then silence. Audio technicians confirmed the voice pattern matched Jacob's exactly. It wasn't an imitation nor an edit, it was his tone, his cadence, his speech rhythm. But how could Jacob have called himself from the future? Detectives searched every possible angle, spoofing, SIM cloning, even digital interference, but nothing matched. The call data was too clean, too specific. It wasn't a hack, it was real. Security footage from the apartment building added another layer of unease. At 11:46 p.m., 1 minute before the call, Jacob was seen walking toward his door, phone in hand, as if he'd heard something. Then he stopped. He looked through the peephole, said something under his breath, and froze completely for 6 seconds. Then the lights in his apartment flickered. At 11:47 p.m., the exact second the mysterious call was logged, Jacob stepped back from the door, then vanished from the frame. The footage never showed him leaving. No signs of a break-in, no signs of struggle. The next day, his phone, laptop, and smartwatch were all synced at the same time, 11:47 p.m., as if each device had briefly reconnected to an external signal before shutting off. 3 days later, one more call appeared in the company's server logs, same number, same timestamp, 11:47 p.m. But this time the system flagged it as incomplete transmission. When analysts opened the raw data, it wasn't audio, it was code. Embedded fragments that translated to text when decrypted, "It's already here." The message appeared once, then erased itself from the company's server logs seconds later. No one could trace its source. Some online theorists suggest that Jacob accidentally stumbled upon a time loop caused by overlapping cell network signals. Others believe it was a government experiment gone wrong. But there's one final chilling detail that keeps this case alive. In 2022, nearly a year after Jacob's disappearance, his phone number briefly became active again for less than 2 minutes. It pinged off a cell tower 200 miles away, in a remote stretch of forest near the Colorado border. A local ranger reported hearing a faint ringtone echoing near an abandoned service cabin. When the sound stopped, he followed it to an open field and found a phone battery, scorched and half-melted, buried in the dirt. The serial number matched Jacob's device. The phone company has no record of service activation that day. Officially, Jacob Ellis is still listed as missing. Unofficially, many believe he saw something he wasn't supposed to, and that his warning, "Don't open the door," wasn't meant for himself. It was meant for us. In February of 2018, a 36-year-old freelance journalist named Mark Jensen disappeared from his home in Spokane, Washington. He wasn't famous, but he had gained a quiet reputation online for his investigative blog, where he posted stories about strange, unsolved events, local disappearances, mysterious radio signals, and forgotten cold cases. His final project, according to his friends, was supposed to be about a local legend known as the Phantom Frequency. People claimed that at 3:03 a.m., certain radio frequencies in the area emitted a soft human voice. speaking names of people who had recently died. Mark had been fascinated by it. He told a friend that he wanted to catch the voice live. On February 6th, he set up 3 microphones, an old tape recorder, and his laptop. At exactly 3 a.m., his recording started. That was the last time anyone saw him alive. The next morning, his apartment was found locked from the inside. The lights were still on, his coffee half drunk, and his chair pushed slightly away from his desk. But Mark was gone. His car keys, phone, and wallet were left behind. The only thing out of place was his laptop, still running an audio program. On the screen, a single file titled 303 WEV. When police played the recording, they expected random noise. Instead, they heard what sounded like radio static, then faintly a man breathing. For almost a full minute, there was only static and low background hum. Then a voice emerged. It was Mark's. But the tone was different, calm, detached, and strange. "This is Mark Jensen," the voice said. "If you're hearing this, I think I've found it." A pause. Then the voice continued, quieter now. "It's not a signal, it's a place." The rest of the recording grew distorted, unintelligible whispers layered over mechanical sounds. But in the final seconds, Mark's voice returned, trembling. "It's calling names. Mine's next. Mine's next." Investigators sent the file to an audio lab in Seattle. The analysis confirmed the voice was Mark's, but the background noise contained something they couldn't explain. A low, rhythmic pulse occurring exactly every 3.03 seconds, like a hidden code. When technicians tried to isolate it, their systems repeatedly crashed. Friends of Mark recalled that he'd become increasingly paranoid in the weeks before his disappearance. He told one colleague that he was hearing static even when the radio was off. Another claimed he mentioned dreams of standing in front of a tower, hearing a voice call his name. The police searched his apartment thoroughly. No signs of forced entry or struggle. The windows were locked, the deadbolt engaged from the inside. It was as if he'd simply vanished between one breath and the next. Months later, a new development reignited the case. A sound engineer reviewing the original 303.wav file discovered something hidden deep within the recording. When slowed down 300%, faint words became audible beneath the static. The voice whispered, "Mark Jensen, Spokane, apartment 2B. Those were the exact details of Mark's residence. It was older, raspier, and according to voice comparison, it matched no known person. The engineer, disturbed, deleted the file from his computer. But when he rebooted the next morning, the same file had reappeared, this time renamed 304 WEV. He destroyed the hard drive that same day. Mark Jensen's disappearance remains unsolved. His body was never found. Some say he discovered a frequency that connects to something we're not meant to hear. Others believe he staged his own vanishing as part of an elaborate performance. But there's one final detail that chills even the skeptics. Every year on February 6th, exactly at 3:03 a.m., a small group of radio hobbyists in Washington report picking up a faint broadcast on 87.3 FM. The message lasts only a few seconds, static followed by a voice whispering a single line. "This is Mark Jensen. I'm still here." No one knows where it's coming from. No one ever answers. In the spring of 2016, 28-year-old architect Anna Kowalski checked into a small business hotel in Chicago for a 2-day work trip. She was smart, focused, and well-liked. Nothing about her suggested the kind of mystery that would later unfold. The hotel, known as the Baymont Central, was an aging 12-story building. One of those places that still used brass keys instead of electronic cards. Anna was assigned to room 119 on the first floor, near an old out-of-service elevator. The staff told her it hadn't worked in years. On the first night, Anna called her fiancé around 10:30 p.m. She told him she'd finished her presentation and planned to rest early. She sounded relaxed, even cheerful. That was the last time anyone heard her voice. The next morning, she didn't show up for her meeting. Her co-workers called her phone repeatedly, but it went straight to voicemail. Hotel staff went to her room. The door was locked from the inside. When they finally opened it, Anna's belongings were neatly arranged. Her laptop was still open on the desk, her suitcase half unpacked. But she was gone. There were no signs of forced entry or struggle. The only unusual thing? The elevator doors next to her room, the ones marked out of order, were slightly open. When maintenance checked, they found something strange. The elevator wasn't just inactive, it had no power source connected at all. The control panel was missing. It couldn't have moved in years. Yet dust marks on the floor suggested that the doors had recently opened and closed. Security footage made the case even stranger. At 2:19 a.m., the hallway camera outside room 119 showed Anna stepping out of her room barefoot, wearing her hotel robe. She appeared calm, though her head was tilted slightly, as if listening to something. Then she turned toward the elevator. She walked up to it, paused, and pressed the button, though there was no light, no sound, nothing. After a few seconds, the elevator doors slid open, completely silent. Anna looked inside, then she stepped forward. The doors closed behind her, and the elevator never moved again. Maintenance workers examined the shaft that morning. It was empty from top to bottom. No elevator car, no cables, nothing but an open vertical shaft sealed by metal at both ends. There was nowhere for her to go. The footage was reviewed dozens of times. Forensic experts confirmed it hadn't been tampered with. The timestamp, lighting, and camera angles were consistent. It was real. Police searched the entire building, the roof, basement, maintenance tunnels, but found nothing. No trace of Anna. The coroner's office later examined the shaft again and discovered something even more unsettling. Deep within the wall, behind a maintenance panel that hadn't been opened in decades, there was a small service ladder leading downward, one that wasn't on any official blueprint. It descended into a narrow maintenance space only 5 feet high, filled with dust and old wiring. At the bottom, investigators found a single item, a keychain with Anna's initials, AK, engraved on it. There were no other clues. The hotel was shut down in 2018 and later demolished, but the footage of Anna stepping into that dead elevator remains one of the strangest and most inexplicable pieces of evidence ever recorded. Online theories exploded. Some believe Anna suffered a sleepwalking episode. Others insist the video shows something supernatural, a phantom elevator tied to a space that shouldn't exist. Engineers say it's impossible for the doors to have opened without power. But those who've studied the case closely point out one last detail, something easy to miss. Just before Anna steps into the elevator, the hallway camera picks up a faint sound. It lasts less than 2 seconds, a low mechanical hum, and a voice barely audible whispers, "Going down." To this day, Anna Kowalski has never been found. And the elevator in room 119, it's gone now, buried beneath the new foundation. But construction workers who rebuilt the site reported something unnerving. When digging began, their equipment picked up faint metallic vibrations beneath the ground, like an engine still running far below. No source was ever found. In 2012, a young couple, Michael and Laura Bennett, moved into a quiet suburban home on the outskirts of Madison, Wisconsin. The house at 1126 Ash Grove Lane had been on the market for over a year. Its previous owners, an elderly couple, had died within months of each other. But the price was low, the neighborhood safe, and the Bennetts thought it was the perfect place to start a family. At first, everything seemed normal. The house was old but well kept, with creaky floors and tall windows that filled the rooms with afternoon light. Laura loved the charm, Michael loved the peace. But within weeks, odd things began to happen. It started small, sounds that didn't belong. A knock from inside a wall, a whisper when both of them were in bed, a faint hum from the basement when the power was off. Then one night in October, Laura was alone in the kitchen. She was humming a tune softly while washing dishes when she heard something that froze her in place. From the empty hallway behind her, a voice whispered the same tune, note for note, back at her. She turned, but no one was there. Michael thought she was just tired. They laughed it off. But over the next few days, it kept happening. Anytime one of them spoke, the sound would echo faintly back. Not as an echo, but as a reply. Always just a little delayed, like something in the house was imitating them. Michael decided to test it. He went into the living room one night and said loudly, "Hello?" For a moment, there was silence. Then faintly, from somewhere deep within the walls, came a soft, distorted reply. "Hello?" He laughed nervously, but Laura didn't. They recorded everything after that. Voices, creaks, even the hum in the basement. On one of the recordings, around 2 a.m., you can hear Michael say, "Who are you?" 5 seconds later, another voice answers, "We are home." The voice was neither male nor female, flat, mechanical, yet human. They showed the tape to a local paranormal investigator, who dismissed it as interference. But an audio engineer who reviewed the same file said something different. The sound wasn't interference. It had 3 distinct layers of speech, all slightly overlapping, all formed from fragments of Michael and Laura's own voices. As if the house wasn't just echoing them, it was reconstructing them. In January of 2013, things escalated. Neighbors noticed the couple stopped going outside. Groceries piled up at the front door. No one answered when they knocked. Police were finally called to perform a welfare check. When they entered, they found the Bennett's car still in the driveway. The house was locked from the inside. Dinner plates were set on the table, candles half burned, and 2 chairs pulled out. But Michael and Laura were gone. Upstairs, their bed was made, their clothes neatly folded. But on the living room wall, written faintly in soot, were the words, "We are still home." Investigators scoured the property for evidence of foul play, but there were no signs of a struggle, no fingerprints, no DNA, nothing. Then one detective noticed something strange in the basement, an air vent that wasn't on the house's blueprints. When they removed the cover, they found a narrow tunnel leading a few feet into the concrete foundation, ending in solid rock. At the very end, etched into the stone, were 3 small words: "We found you." Audio experts later analyzed the couple's last known recording and found that in the final minute, a new voice joined in, one that neither belonged to Michael nor Laura. It was faint but clear enough to make out a phrase repeated several times: "Stay." No trace of the Bennetts was ever discovered. Their relatives eventually sold the property, but the next owners moved out within weeks, claiming they could hear faint conversations in the walls, voices saying their names when they walked past empty rooms. The house has remained empty ever since. Locals say if you stand on the sidewalk at night and call out hello toward 1126 Ash Grove Lane, the silence will last just long enough for you to doubt yourself before something softly answers back. Each of these cases left behind more questions than answers, but maybe that's what makes them unforgettable. The silence, the fear, and the thought that somewhere out there the truth still exists. If these stories unsettled you, imagine the ones we couldn't tell tonight. Subscribe for more mysteries that time refused to solve. This was Unsolved, where every truth hides in the dark.